The first rule Riley Vega learned on her home planet wasn't how to survive, it was how not to freeze. On Earth, freezing meant death. Here, freezing meant becoming a spectacle. Xerillian Academy's atrium thrummed with distant machinery and soft alien chatter. Students from 12 species crossed the polished alloy floors, their voices weaving into a constant, uneasy hum. Everywhere Riley walked, conversations shortened, antennae angled away, bioluminescent frills dimmed. Even the walls seemed to tense when she passed. Deathworlder. The term clung to her like static. She kept her shoulders square, eyes forward. The academy uniform, sleeveless and silver, felt too thin against the cold, forced air, but she refused to shiver. Showing discomfort around predators, even academic ones, was weakness. "Vega!" someone rasped from behind her. She recognized the voice before she turned. Zekrelvosht, Rickery Elite, 7 feet tall, plated in matte obsidian armor. Mandibles curved into a permanent smirk. He walked like he owned the oxygen in the room. Riley didn't slow. "Good morning to you, too," she said. "It's Ambassador Vosht to you." His tone dripped superiority. Noted. Ambassador. The other students scattered, avoiding being caught between them. The academy touted cultural unity, but unity ended where a human started. "You're late," Zekrel said, falling into step beside her. "No," Riley replied. "You're early." Again. The tip of his foreleg brushed her arm, an intentional invasion of space. "You scored highest on the xenobiology exam." "That's unacceptable." There it was. Not fear, resentment. Riley didn't lift her gaze. "I'm good at studying." "Not my fault." "You are a primitive mammal from a death planet." "Well, I'm literate, so at least I have that going." His mandibles clicked. Hard. They reached the lab doors. Zekrel waved his authority badge. The security lock flashed green. Riley entered after him. The xenobiology classroom glowed in soft blue light, full of transparent study tanks where tiny organisms pulsed under containment fields. Their instructor, High Scholar Tevrik, floated on a grav disc near the ceiling. Tentacles arranging holographic notes. "Begin your practical assessment," he instructed in his calm, watery voice. Pairs formed around the tanks. No one stood beside Riley. The assignment hovered as text in front of them. "Safely collect a sample from a shiver spine larva." Zekrel immediately approached the tank beside hers. "I'll observe Riley," he told Tevrik, voice full of poisonous courtesy. "For research." Tevrik hesitated, unsure whether interfering would be considered disrespectful to a Raikari ambassador's heir. Riley gripped her tools and leaned toward her tank. The larva was the size of a walnut, trembling with electrical pulses. One wrong move, and it released a neurotoxin cloud. Her hands were steady. On Earth, she'd learned to set compound fractures with shaking fingers in sub-zero wind. A trembling grub didn't compare. Using microforceps, she turned the larva gently, avoiding the spines. She extracted the sample into a biosafe container. Clean, precise, efficient. Tevrik's voice dipped in amazement. "Perfect technique." Zekrel spoke loudly enough for the entire class to hear. "Deathworlder reflexes." Nothing more. Riley ignored him. Tevrik logged her result, transferring a glowing green checkmark beside her name. "Second perfect score this week." Zekrel's frills flared with irritation. After class, Riley stored her equipment and slung her data pack over her shoulder. She didn't notice the way Zekrel watched her, calculating, coiling something darker than rivalry. She only noticed when the Academy's security authority approached. 3 of them. "Uniforms in silver plating, Cadet Vega," one said, visor hiding their expression. "Ambassador Vosht has reported a breach of containment protocol. You are ordered to exit through Maintenance Bay 5 to undergo—" Riley blinked. "A breach? I didn't comply," the authority repeated. Students stopped talking. Silence spread across the hall. Riley met Zekrel's gaze over the heads of the crowd. He stood at a balcony rail above her, leaning on it casually. Mandibles curved into a pleased smile. Riley kept her voice level. Of course. She wasn't giving him the satisfaction of resistance. The authority escorted her down through lower corridors, places she had only passed on her way to fire drills. The hum of machinery deepened. The academy air thinned, colder, smelling faintly metallic. Why Maintenance Bay 5? That bay opened to the outer habitat deck. Shouldn't this be handled in a lab? Riley asked. No response. Is Teverick aware of this? Silence. Riley's pulse tightened, but her breathing didn't change. Humans weren't allowed visible fear. Aliens interpreted it as weakness, or worse, attack readiness. They stopped at an airlock door. Yellow hazard lights pulsed around the frame. Warning. Syresh storm cycle. Approaching external habitat. Unsafe. The authority swiped their badges. The door slid open. Wind roared inside. A bitter, sharp wind filled with the distant howl of migrating predators. Riley froze. The storm? You will wait outside until the chief investigator arrives. Riley stared at them, then at the open airlock. Outside. Yes. No environmental suit? Protocol, the guard replied, monotone. Remove your data pack. She unstrapped it and laid it on a bench. She stepped into the lock on steady legs. The interior door sealed behind her. That's when she heard the voice, Zekrel's, filtered through the intercom. Vega, you should be honored, he said. You will be the first human to meet the native wildlife up close. The exterior door hissed. Wind slammed into her, icy and sharp. The landing deck extended outward beneath a violet sky streaked with lightning. Beyond the edge lay the forest, glowing, hostile, alive. Zekrel, Riley said, voice steady. Let me back inside. You always claim humans can adapt, he replied. Prove it, lightning flared. The academy's shields flickered. Riley stepped backward, close to the safety of the lock. Don't be stupid. This isn't a game. Everything is a game, Zekrel said. You just never learned the rules. The door sealed with a heavy metallic slam. Inside the window of the lock, she saw Zekrel's silhouette. He lifted a hand, 2 fingers. Dismissal. The lights inside went dark. The intercom clicked off. Riley's breath clouded in front of her. The wind whipped her hair across her face. She scanned the deck. Railings broken in places, panels warped from previous storms. Below, unnatural movement threaded between the glowing purple trees. Something shifted there. Fluid and heavy, the academy above her blazed with warm light. She stood alone. She exhaled once. Then the hunger sound came from behind her. Not wind, not storm. A growl, low, resonant, close. Riley didn't turn immediately. She listened first, calculated. Direction, left. Height, above deck level. Weight, heavy, distributing pressure carefully. Ambush predator. She finally turned. 2 pale green eyes watched her from the roof of the shuttle port. Wide, unblinking. Waiting. Riley whispered, Not afraid. I survived Earth. She squared her shoulders against the storm and faced the predator. Try me. The creature didn't rush her. It watched. Riley had learned on Earth that predators who watched were the most dangerous. They weren't hungry, they were confident. Wind ripped across the exposed deck. Sharp mist stung her cheeks. Air tasted metallic because of the storm chemicals mixing with ionized lightning. The creature's eyes glowed. Set wide on a skull fringed with pale tendrils that swayed like underwater plants. Riley's heart rate stayed even. Panic was a luxury she didn't allow. Assess. Plan. Act. She backed away slowly, scanning the deck. The metal floor vibrated under each gust, perfect to track movement through her boots, like feeling tremors through snow. The creature shifted forward, climbing down from the roof with smooth, wicked grace. Too smooth, too controlled, quadruped, long limbs, flexible spine, designed to latch and crush. Riley glanced at the door, sealed tight. No control panel on the outside. The Academy wanted plausible deniability. Lightning illuminated the predator's full outline, shallow ribs visible beneath thin, iridescent skin. Its jaw unhinged slightly, rows of sharp, curved teeth glinting wet. It was big enough to drag her. Okay, Riley whispered, tightening her jaw. We do this the old way, She crouched and unhooked the strap from her uniform. It snapped free. Good. She tugged a few wires from the side pocket of her data pack she'd left inside earlier until she realized. The pack wasn't inside, it was dangling near a maintenance console. Zekril left it there on purpose. He wanted to watch her scramble like prey. Riley sprinted. The creature launched after her. Its claws hammered the deck, sending vibrations through the metal surface. She could feel its speed through her soles. Her breath stayed even, arms pumping. She snatched the pack, swung behind a support beam, and ducked low. The creature slammed into the beam with a sickening crunch. The impact dented the alloy, but the predator recovered instantly, shaking its head. Riley's mind raced. She dug into her pack. Datapad with shattered screen. Micro tool case. Water ration packet. Emergency thermal coil, not much. Enough. She cracked the datapad's casing open, using a shard of glass from its screen to cut the internal wiring. The shard sliced her thumb. Sharp, but perfect. She wrapped a wire around a broken railing, pulling it across another loose one. Primitive tripline made from power cabling. She tested its tension with a quick jerk. Good. She laced 3 more strands of wiring through gaps between panels, creating a rough snare. Lightning flashed again. The predator leapt from the beam straight toward her. Riley sprinted backward, baiting it. Just a little more, the beast charged. It hit the first line, jerked sideways. The second line caught around its front limbs. The third looped around its throat. The creature snarled, thrashing. Riley pulled the emergency thermal coil from her pack and activated it. The metal glowed orange. Using the coil like a hot brand, she pressed it to the creature's exposed jaw. Burned flesh hissed. The predator screamed, a sharp, keening sound that cut through the storm. Riley didn't hesitate. She grabbed the shard of datapad glass and drove it under, the jaw where the membrane was thin. The beast convulsed. She held steady until the struggle stopped. Only then did she let herself inhale. Her hands shook, not from fear but adrenaline. She wiped them against her uniform, leaving crimson streaks across the silver fabric. The storm howled around her. Riley looked at the dead predator. "I didn't come here to fight anything," she whispered. "You pushed this." She dragged the corpse by one limb toward the airlock. The deck slicked under the blood, metallic and slippery. The predator's body was heavier than it looked, forcing Riley to brace her boots and pull with her entire weight. Every foot she moved it. She pictured Zekril's smirk. Deathworlder. If they wanted proof, she would show them what Earth bred. Halfway to the airlock, Riley froze. Voices from the other side of the door. She won't last 5 minutes. That's why he did it. Humans break. She's not coming back. Riley's heartbeat didn't spike, but something cold and furious unfurled inside her. She dragged the body the last stretch, letting its weight slam against the door. The thud echoed like a battering ram. Silence fell on the other side. Riley pounded her fist once on the door. "Hard enough to bruise. Open it." Her voice carried no tremor, just steel. Through the narrow window, students gathered. Wide eyes, pressed frills, antennae quivering. Someone gagged when they spotted the creature's corpse. The door stayed closed. Zekril stepped into view. His posture screamed satisfaction, like this was all going exactly as planned. He activated the intercom. "Well," he said lightly, "you didn't die." "I miscalculated your fragility." "You targeted me," Riley replied. "You lied to security to get me out here." Zekril tilted his head like she amused him. "Maybe I wanted to see what a human actually does when no one is protecting her." "You mean when I'm in danger?" Riley's tone sharpened. "You wanted a show." He didn't deny it. Instead, "I expected crying." Riley stared at him, rain soaking her hair, blood dripping from her hands. "You underestimate humans," she said. "Or perhaps," Zekril countered, "your kind exaggerates your resilience." Riley didn't blink. She reached down, grabbed the predator's head, and with one clean motion, lifted it so that it hit the door's window with a wet smack. Gasps sounded. Zekril's posture shifted. He hadn't expected that. Riley leaned closer to the intercom panel. "I don't need exaggerations," she said softly. "I have evidence." Zekral's glare flickered just once, something like uncertainty flashing in those compound eyes. He gestured sharply and the airlock hissed. The door slid open. Riley stepped inside, dragging the corpse so the trail of blood followed her onto the pristine white flooring. Silence swallowed the hallway. Alien students backed away, instinctive fear taking over. Not fear of the creature, fear of her. Tevrik rushed forward, tentacles shaking. "Cadet Vega, what happened?" Riley let go of the corpse. "It thudded on the tile." "Ask him," she said, chin lifting toward Zekral. "He locked me out." Dozens of eyes turned to him. "He did what?" A young aquatic student whispered. Zekral regained composure with a forced laugh. "I merely requested testing. Humans boast capability without evidence." "She killed a Suresh Apex," someone murmured, "with scrap metal. With a glass shard. Look, her hand is bleeding." Tevrik's voice wavered. "Ambassador Vosht, is this true?" Zekral's mandibles flared. "The human survived." "Isn't that what matters?" Riley walked right up to him. He tried to stand taller. She didn't give him space. "Riley," voice low enough for only him to hear. "You wanted to confirm whether humans are dangerous." She leaned in, eyes cold. "Congratulations." Zekral stepped back. The Academy alarms blared suddenly, cutting through the tension. Security breach. External predators detected near the perimeter. Students panicked. Tevrik shouted instructions. Riley just stood there, dripping storm water and predator blood, staring at Zekral. He had wanted to expose a monster, instead he created one. The predator's corpse was gone by morning, not disposed of. Not taken to research, just gone, Riley noticed first. She entered the atrium early, walking past the place where the body had been dragged in last night. The tiles were cleaned, polished back to mirror bright. Only faint scratches on the floor remained, evidence erased. Voices echoed from the main corridor as students gathered around the hollow board. She didn't need to listen to know what they were whispering. She killed it. Humans are lethal. Don't look at her. She senses fear. Riley ignored them, moving to her locker. Her hands were still wrapped in medical sealant from where the glass shard had cut her, the edges healing fast. Human immune systems worked over time in environments like this. Just one more thing that made her abnormal. A sudden hush fell over the hall. Riley looked up. The Academy Council stood at the edge of the platform. 5 administrators, robes heavy with official insignia. In their center hovered the AI examiner column, a tall, translucent cylinder filled with floating projections. It monitored every door, every camera, every system. Tevrik floated beside the council, his gaze fixed firmly on Riley. "Cadet Riley Vega," a counselor announced. "Approach." Every eye in the atrium pinned her like a specimen. Riley stepped forward. Zekral wasn't in sight. Not in the hall. Not at the balconies. Not anywhere. The counselor folded both sets of hands. "We reviewed sensor logs from last night." Riley kept her face unreadable. "And?" The AI column flickered to life. Holographic recordings displayed Zekral, issuing the false containment order, the airlock sealing. Riley trapped outside in the storm clear. Undeniable. Gasps cut through the crowd. Zekral's lackeys tried to melt into the walls. "We summoned Ambassador Vosht," another counselor said. "But he failed to report," whispers broke out. Riley detected fear, not fear of Zekral, fear of what was missing. "Is he hiding?" someone whispered. "Maybe he was suspended. Maybe. She did something." Riley heard that last part clearly. The speaker flinched and looked away. Tevrik gestured toward the council. "We insist that Cadet Vega be cleared of misconduct. She acted under threat." Riley stayed silent. The council turned to her. "Cadet Vega, do you have anything to add?" She didn't speak immediately. Words carried weight here. Too much could backfire. Too little could bury her. She settled on precision. "He locked me outside," she said. "He thought I would die." Council members exchanged glances. Riley continued. "I didn't." The hall held its breath. A counselor finally spoke. "Zekral Vosht is missing." Riley blinked once. "Missing?" Security last registered his badge leaving the Academy campus at 0200 hours. the AI confirmed. He did not return. Riley felt something jolt at her ribs. Not guilt, not fear. Recognition. Something had followed her back into the academy last night. She remembered the predator's body disappearing. The heavy dragging sound. A faint shadow slipping along the wall when she exited the medbay. She hadn't imagined it. Tevrick cleared his throat. Until further notice, we are increasing perimeter security. Riley, we require your full cooperation. Riley nodded once. Calm, controlled. She walked away. In xenobiology class, the room felt smaller. Students refused to stand near her. No partner approached her workstation. Tevrick assigned her a full station to herself under the pretense of special observation. Halfway through the lesson, a pair of aquatic students at the table behind her whispered, "She did something to him. In the dark. Maybe using human tactics." Riley waited until Tevrick turned away, then slowly rotated just enough to catch their eyes. "Human tactics?" she asked quietly. Both froze. Riley leaned forward. "When humans deal with threats, we don't hide the evidence." The two nearly tripped over each other trying to relocate. Tevrick's voice broke the tension. "Riley, a moment?" She joined him near the holographic tanks. The tiny larva inside pulsed in soft hues. "Are you all right?" he asked. "Yes. You went through a trauma." "No." Riley looked him in the eye. "I went through a storm." Tevrick exhaled through his gills, torn between concern and caution. "If you know anything about Ambassador Vosht's location—" "I don't. Not a lie. Not the full truth." The academy bell chimed, ending class. Afternoon meal in the dining hall was worse. No one sat within 3 tables of her. The air smelled like mineral broth and disinfectant. She ate in silence, each deliberate bite louder in the vacuum around her. A shadow fell across her tray. Riley didn't look up. "Seat's empty if you want it." A tall, thin alien with lavender skin slid into the seat opposite her. She recognized him. Lyrics, top scorer in astromath, known for never speaking unless a statement needed to be said. He studied her face. "You didn't kill Zekril?" "No." "But you could have." She didn't answer. Lyrics' eyes were sharp. "Most species break under fear. You don't. I'm used to fear. From Earth?" Riley nodded once. Lyrics watched her a moment longer. "Everyone here is scared of you." Riley set her spoon down slowly. "Are you?" He considered. "I'm scared of the others. Fear makes crowds irrational." He stood. "Be careful, human." He left without looking back. Night cycle in the dorm wing was quiet. Too quiet. Riley's room was small, bed, desk, narrow window. She sat cross-legged on the bed, studying footage of the predator attack. She slowed the video, frame by frame. At Arrow 318, a shadow moved at the edge of the deck. Not her. Not the predator. Too upright. Too tall. And familiar. Riley paused the frame. Zekril. He hadn't left the deck when she entered the airlock. He had stood outside watching, and then vanished from view. There was a sound. Behind her, not the wind, a soft scrape along the floor. Riley turned her head. Slowly, her blood ran cold inside her room, on. The floor beside the door lay Zekril's authority badge, dried storm mud, clung to it. She picked it up. The metal still held cold from outside. A faint scrawl was scratched into the back. Riley straightened, every muscle locking into readiness. Her door panel flickered. The lights dimmed. Outside, she heard sudden screaming, not far, not distant. Students sprinted down the corridor. Something slammed against the hallway wall. Riley stepped into the hall, badge still in hand. Lyrics was there, wide-eyed. "Something's inside the academy." "What room?" "The one he used to monitor you." Zekril's surveillance hub. Riley ran, not away, toward it. Security lights flashed red as she reached the chamber. The door was ajar, one hinge twisted. Inside, monitors flickered with static. The stench of metal and something biological coated the air. In the center of the floor lay Zekril's outer plating, torn clean off. but no body. Riley exhaled slowly. She didn't scream. She didn't panic. She understood. Whatever dragged the predator's corpse also dragged Zekril. Not to kill, to hunt. Lyric stood behind her. "Do we inform the council?" "No," Riley said. "Why not?" She looked at the torn plating. "Because they won't believe what's still inside the academy." Lyric swallowed. "And what do you believe?" Riley closed her fingers around Zekril's badge. "I believe I'm not the only apex predator here anymore." She stepped into the darkness. Not running. Hunting. Alarms pulsed through the academy like a heartbeat, slow, heavy, growing faster with every cycle. Security breach, internal stay in your assigned quadrants. Most students panicked. Riley didn't. She'd learned long ago. Panic wastes oxygen. Fear wastes time. Lyrics kept close behind her as she moved down the corridor, Zekril's authority badge tight in her hand. The lights flickered from steady white to pulsing scarlet. The air smelled like ozone and something harder to define. Wet stone and metal, like a cave after rain. Something alive. Lyrics lowered his voice. "The council will declare an evacuation." "Then they'll trap everyone," Riley said. "The thing hunts movement. Running gives it targets." They turned down a side hallway. Scratches clawed deep into the walls, long and deliberate. Not frantic. Territorial. Lyric swallowed. "You think it's nesting?" "No," Riley said. "I think it's waiting." Her boots absorbed the vibration of the floor. Micro-tremors, faint but unmistakable. Heavy steps somewhere deeper inside the structure, moving with unnerving precision. Riley reached the branching junction leading toward the surveillance hub. 3 security drones hovered, blocking access. Authorized personnel only. Riley flicked Zekril's badge across the scanner. The drones froze mid-air. "Access granted," Lyrics blinked. "You're terrifying." "Not my fault they programmed the doors to worship authority." They entered. The surveillance hub was silent except for the hum of servers. Holoscreens cast eerie blue across the floor. The predator's scratches on the wall stopped at the threshold, as if even it hesitated to enter this room. Riley approached the central console. "I need security feeds." Lyrics moved to the adjacent panel and began typing. His fingers moved quickly, precise, practiced. "No signal from half the cameras," Lyrics murmured. Riley tapped a different terminal, pulling up thermal imaging. The system hesitated, then complied. The screen filled with heat signatures, students clustered in their dorms, security guards pacing, counselors shouting orders in the command chamber, then a shape. Huge. Heat signature bright and uncontrolled. It prowled the hydroponics wing. Lyrics leaned closer. That's inside." Riley zoomed in. The thermal. Overlay showed something dragging. Across the floor. Not a body. Armor. Rykari armor. Plating. Zekril's plating. Riley exhaled. A controlled release of breath. "It took him apart for a reason." "For trophies," Lyrics whispered. "No." Riley watched the thermal image. "For a message." As if sensing their attention, the shape stopped, turned its head, looked at the camera. The feed cut to black. Lyrics flinched. "It sees the cameras." "Predators adapt," Riley said. "If they lose an advantage." Lyrics swallowed. "Then how do we stop something that watches us?" Riley didn't answer immediately. She scanned the room, searching for something, anything that could be used. Then her gaze settled on the emergency locker under the console. Inside, industrial-strength cable, a portable flash arc cutter, a shock baton, and a compressed nitrogen canister for fire suppression. Not much. Enough. She tossed the baton to Lyrics. "If anything touches you, don't swing wildly. Place and press." He nodded, knuckles pale. Riley reached for the nitrogen canister. Lyrics frowned. "What are you doing with that?" "Cold makes muscles seize. Slows reaction time. You're going after it?" "Yes. By yourself?" Riley met his eyes. "I've hunted worse." Lyrics stared at her. "You talk like Earth was a war zone." "It was home." She turned to leave. Lyrics caught her sleeve. His voice was quiet. Don't let this place turn you into what they already fear. Riley paused. They created what they fear, she said, and walked. Hydroponics was humid and dim, rows of alien flora stretching like skeletal trees. Mist hissed from irrigation vents. Overhead lights flickered, casting long shadows across the walkway. Riley stood still, listening. The vibrations returned, faint, almost cautious. The creature wasn't wandering. It was circling. She crouched behind a dense thicket of vine structures. Light broke across the wet floor. Streaks of deep green fluid smeared like blood, but brighter, almost bioluminescent. Riley followed the trail with the canister in one hand, shard of glass from her data pad in the other. Heavy breath behind her. Close. She didn't turn. Instead, she slid the nitrogen canister around her back and clicked open the valve. The hiss of freezing mist filled the space around her. Something lunged. Riley rolled forward. A swipe of claws tore through the air where her head had been a fraction of a second earlier. She aimed the canister directly at the creature's torso. A jet of nitrogen blasted across it, crystallizing the skin in jagged streaks. The beast recoiled, limbs jerking, muscles spasmed, slowing. Riley struck. She drove the shard of glass into one of the exposed joints behind its limb, hitting soft tissue. It roared, staggering. The creature recovered faster than she expected. It slammed her backward. Her spine hit a metal irrigation pipe. Air vanished from her lungs. The creature loomed over her, jaw splitting open far wider than natural. Too many teeth. Too much hunger. Riley tightened her grip on the nitrogen canister. She rammed it into its mouth and twisted the valve full open. Frost exploded inside its skull. The beast shrieked, choking, limbs seizing, ice spreading from inside out. Riley rolled away as its body convulsed. She grabbed the flash arc cutter from her belt, activated the blade, and slashed once across the frozen joint. The head separated from the body. Silence. Riley stayed crouched, forearm braced on her knee, catching her breath. She didn't allow herself to collapse. There were cameras. Someone was watching. A familiar voice echoed from the entrance. Well, a counselor murmured, stepping into view with 4 security guards at his side. That answers one question. Riley stood. Where were you when students were in danger? We were resolving diplomatic concerns, the counselor replied. His gaze dropped to the creature's corpse. You handled it? Not because you trusted me, Riley said. Because you expected me to die first. The counselor's tone shifted. Silk over steel. Your species is volatile. This proves it, Riley stepped forward. That thing stalked us. You erased evidence of the first predator and ignored the second. Why? The counselor didn't answer. Lyrics appeared behind Riley, chest heaving, shock baton in hand. They'll blame you, he whispered. The counselor spread his hands, voice carrying across the room. The human acted with lethal aggression. We will discuss disciplinary action. Riley didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. You can't outrank survival. One of the guards glanced at the creature's severed head, freezing mist still evaporating off its jaws. He lowered his weapon. Counselor, he said quietly, she saved us. Riley turned toward the door. We're done pretending humans are ornamental. Lyrics followed her out. Behind them, the council chamber erupted in arguments. Hours later, Riley sat alone on the observation deck. The storm outside had calmed, revealing the glowing forest beyond. Lyrics approached. They're calling an emergency assembly tomorrow. To decide what to do with me, she said. He hesitated. What will you do? Riley looked at the reflection of her own eyes in the glass. Steady, cold, alive. I'll remind them that humans didn't earn survival through permission. She stood. We earned it through evolution,